6 years. That's how long I had been grinding in the same company, climbing rung by rung through sheer persistence. I wasn't the most brilliant, nor the most charming, but I was reliable, dependable, the guy who showed up early, stayed late, volunteered for the project no one else wanted. I became the quiet engine behind bigger decisions, the dependable name that circulated in team meetings without needing a spotlight. And finally, it happened. I was nominated for promotion, associate vice president of our division. Not quite the top, but close enough to smell it, close enough to feel the shift in the way people shook my hand, the way my name was included in senior-level email chains. It was real, tangible, earned. I brought the news home with tired joy. She, my wife, met it with that specific kind of pride only someone who's walked beside you through all the late nights can offer. She'd seen it all, the anxiety attacks, the unopened takeout boxes, the red edits on proposals I'd rewritten a dozen times. She was, in every way, my teammate. She had worked in HR years before. She understood performance metrics, internal politics, the razor-thin tightrope between leadership's promises and departmental resentments. So when she asked me pointed questions, I chalked it up to professional curiosity. "Does your boss recognize how much you've done?" she asked one night, leaning against the kitchen counter with a glass of wine. "I mean, really recognize it?" I nodded. "Maybe too quickly." "He says he does," I replied. "He's mentioned me in board meetings. Used my data in strategy decks." She smiled. "But it was small." "That's good. Just don't let them take credit for your grind." She asked a lot about my team too, particularly Eric. Eric was one of the few colleagues who shared my hours. He often stayed late, sometimes just one floor above me, other times 2 doors down. A sharp guy, younger, loud laugh, always in a hoodie. He had a way of seeming casual, even in pressure. The interns loved him. My wife asked about him often. "What's Eric like outside of work?" "I don't know," I'd shrug. "We've never really hung out outside. He's funny, I guess." She nodded. "Seems like the type who doesn't break a sweat." The comment felt neutral enough. But later, she asked again, "Did he stay late last night, too?" I remember laughing. "Are you building an HR file in your head?" She smiled. "Just like knowing who's in your orbit." In hindsight, maybe I should have asked more. But at the time, it felt flattering, like she was invested, like she wanted me to win. She made dinner on Thursdays, my longest day. She massaged my neck after budget reviews. She even helped me prep for the final panel, role-playing the most difficult director with surgical precision. "You're ready," she said after one mock session, pushing my laptop shut with a soft hand. "You've already earned it." I believed her. Every fiber of me did. In that house, in those moments, she was my confidence when mine ran thin. And when I stayed late with Eric, when I left presentations open on the coffee table, when I slept 4 hours a night to polish analytics decks, she never complained. "Success isn't supposed to feel comfortable," she once said. "Comfort is where careers go to die." She knew the language. She spoke it better than anyone I'd ever met. And I mistook fluency for loyalty. What I didn't realize, what I couldn't have imagined, was that while I was building a promotion track, she was curating a rotation. But that realization would come later. For now, in those long nights and short weekends, I was just a man chasing legacy, with a wife who, by all appearances, was helping him catch it. And that's the most dangerous kind of betrayal, the one that comes dressed as support. It started with little things. She began mentioning my boss more than I did. Not just in passing, she brought him up during dinner, in the car, while we watched shows. "Do you think he's threatened by how fast you're climbing?" she once asked. "He seems intense." Then came the questions about Eric. Specific ones. "Is Eric staying late again tonight?" She'd ask before I even told her my schedule. "He's always on top of things, isn't he?" There was even a moment when she mentioned he reminded her of someone she used to work with. "Same kind of spark," she said. "Those people go far, even if they don't realize it yet." I laughed it off. She was just engaged, right, involved in my world. I'd always admired that about her. But then came the third moment. She mentioned the intern, Olivia, a shy, bookish 20-something who'd shadowed me for 3 months. I hadn't spoken to her since she left. But one evening, as we sat in bed scrolling through our phones, my wife casually said, "Olivia posted a picture from a wedding last weekend. She looked great." I paused. "How do you know?" She didn't look up. "Oh, I followed her after your department posted the intern farewell photo. She's got good taste in dresses." It struck me as odd. But again, I let it pass. My wife had always been social, especially online. But when I looked at her account later, I saw that she didn't just follow Olivia. They had exchanged likes, comments, a shared emoji or two. Something about it all felt misaligned. Too casual to be pure. Too familiar to be distant. It wasn't the facts that unsettled me. It was the pattern. 3 names. All from my department. All part of my long nights. All now part of her regular conversation. I wanted to believe she was just invested in me. In my work. In my people. But belief isn't the same as certainty. And something inside me, something buried beneath pride and exhaustion, started to whisper. Something doesn't fit. But I wasn't ready to listen. Not yet. I didn't see the fall coming. Not exactly. There had been rumors of restructuring for months. Whispers in conference rooms. Strategic pauses in department head meetings. But I kept my head down. Worked harder. Delivered reports early. Volunteered to lead transitional projects. All the things you do when you're trying to make yourself too useful to be discarded. So when I was called into a meeting about organizational realignment, I thought I knew what was coming. A title bump, maybe, a lateral shift to a more high-profile team. Something political but flattering, something that affirmed the last 6 years of quiet sacrifice. But what they offered wasn't a promotion. It was a reassignment, a step sideways, with less strategic input and more execution oversight. A veiled demotion dressed in HR-friendly phrasing. A gesture that said, "Thank you for your service. Please go sit over there now." I nodded through it, smiled where expected, asked 2 polite questions. Then I said I'd need a day. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched the ceiling turn from navy to gray. Thought about every time I'd missed dinner. Every anniversary I'd rescheduled. Every moment I'd justified as, for the long-term payoff. The payoff had just arrived, in the form of a politely delivered downgrade. I resigned the next morning. The exit interview was scheduled for Friday. It was standard, final paperwork, benefits wrap-up, keycard return, a 20-minute formality meant to smooth the corporate conscience. The HR manager was someone I barely knew. Young, overly apologetic, clearly uncomfortable with the process. She clicked through her checklist, reading from a templated form. And then she opened the wrong file. It was an honest mistake. Her laptop froze. She clicked, sighed, clicked again. A PDF loaded full screen. The title bar read, "Complaints and Internal Affairs, Confidential." I saw it before she did. She scrambled to close it. But not fast enough. The document stayed on screen just long enough for my eyes to catch the phrases that would shatter everything I thought I understood about the past year of my life. 1 complaint, dated 5 months ago. Allegations, inappropriate relationships with multiple internal staff. 3 names appeared in bullet form. Senior Division Director, my boss. Project Lead, Data Strategy, Eric. Former marketing intern, Olivia. The complainant's name was redacted. But the context wasn't. Details included meeting times, locations, several of which lined up with days I'd been out of office or working late. One note read, "Reported by staff member whose spouse is senior manager in same department." That was me. I didn't need confirmation, not after that line. I didn't speak, didn't blink. The HR manager, panicking, closed the file, fumbled an apology, and rushed to the next form like a student flipping past a wrong answer. I nodded, signed where I needed to sign, took the exit packet, walked out without looking back. Outside the building, the air felt different, lighter, almost Like the moment you finally admit a door isn't going to open and stop trying. I had been holding on to an image of myself as a rising executive. Respected, secure, seen, of her as my foundation. The one who steadied me when the ground shook. But that image had been gone for a while. I just hadn't seen it until someone else's mistake showed me exactly where it disappeared. She hadn't just cheated, she had networked her way through my professional world. My ladder to success had become her rotation schedule. And all I got in return was a meeting with HR and a manila envelope full of COBRA forms. I didn't text her, didn't call, just went home, packed a bag, and wrote a note I would leave on my desk Monday morning. Thank you for the valuable lessons. The words felt bitter when I wrote them. But by the time I left the apartment, they felt clean, final, the kind of message that doesn't ask for a reply. Fridays in the office always felt strange, somewhere between a sprint and a sigh. People wore jeans, laughed louder, left early. It was the illusion of looseness. A subtle rebellion against a structure that would snap back into place by Monday. On that particular Friday, I arrived at 7:48 a.m. not because I had work to finish, but because I needed time to move slowly, to say goodbye to things that wouldn't know they were being left behind. No one knew I was leaving. That was the first quiet victory. I kept my resignation low profile. No dramatic goodbyes, no announcement email. I wanted the exit to match the betrayal. Silent, precise, irreversible. I brought a single box. Cardboard, with tape already folded back. Just enough for a few framed certificates. A desk plant. And the mug. The one she gave me 2 years ago. White ceramic. Printed with a picture of us smiling on a Ferris wheel. Her handwriting in cursive font below it. We rise together. That morning, I didn't feel like we were rising. I felt like I'd just cut loose a weight I'd been mistaking for wings. I cleared my desk slowly. Every drawer a memory, every pen a moment I thought mattered. There was a sticky note she'd written, "Breathe. You've got this." I stared at it for a long time before placing it in the shredder. A few coworkers passed by, nodded, smiled. One asked if I was heading out early. I said yes. That was true, in more ways than one. At 10:23 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was her. A simple text. "I know you'll find someplace that deserves you." I laughed. Not out loud, but the kind of internal laugh that sharpens into resolve. I printed the message, opened a Word document, typed up my formal resignation letter, one the company already had on file. But this one was for legacy, for punctuation, to whom it may concern. Thank you for the opportunities, the challenges, and the countless lessons embedded in both. My time here has shaped me in ways I will carry for the rest of my life. Sincerely, my name. And then, just before signing, I added one more line. Thank you for the valuable lessons I will never forget. I folded the letter, tucked it around the printed text message, slid both into an envelope, walked to the 12th floor. My boss's office door was cracked open. He wasn't there. I stepped in, placed the envelope dead center on his keyboard. Then I took out the mug, the one with our photo, and placed it next to the envelope. A final gift, a silent indictment. Let him look at our faces while sipping his coffee. Let him wonder when the smile in that picture became a eulogy. I didn't lock my computer, didn't power it down, just walked away, past the break room where Eric always laughed too loud, past the intern corner where Olivia once blushed when someone praised her presentation, past the front desk where I used to stop for a joke with the receptionist. Not today. Today I walked out as quietly as I'd come in. No fanfare, no applause, just freedom. Outside, the air bit a little sharper than usual. Or maybe I was just breathing for the first time in weeks. I didn't check my phone. Didn't respond to her follow-up. Let me know when you get home safe. I wasn't going home, not the one we built. Anyway, I was headed somewhere else. Somewhere undefined. But I knew one thing. I wouldn't be taking the mug. Or the message. Or the memory. I didn't scream, didn't throw anything, didn't demand explanations that I already knew wouldn't heal anything. I didn't even ask who came first. or who meant more. None of it would change the fact that the fracture had begun in silence, and that's how I chose to let it end. The moment I stepped out of that office on Friday, the weight of every pretense began to peel off. No grand declarations, no social media purges, just a slow undoing of threads I no longer wished to carry. The first thing I did was shut down my email. I created a new one. Not a work one, not a shared one, a clean slate. Then I changed my number. Not to hide, but because I no longer wanted to be found by anyone who had the old one. I didn't leave a note. I didn't pack a suitcase. Just a backpack, one change of clothes, a Kindle, a notepad I hadn't written in since our wedding. I left the ring on the counter. Then I booked a one-way flight to a city I'd never been. Something about airports at night feels honest. Anonymous. No one cares who you are or what you've left behind. I boarded a red-eye flight, slumped against the window, and slept before the plane even lifted. 3 days passed. I stayed in a small coastal town. Checked into a motel with salt-stained floors and no working television. I walked to the beach at 6 a.m. the next morning. Stood barefoot in cold sand. And let the ocean tell me something I hadn't heard in months. You don't have to carry this anymore. And for the first time in years, I believed it. I slept through the afternoons. Not out of exhaustion, but relief. No calendar notifications. No texts about budget projections. No half-lies over dinner. Just silence. Sacred, unfamiliar silence. I thought about what to say to her. Drafted 100 messages in my head. Some poetic, some bitter, some filled with every detail I'd uncovered. But they all ended the same way. Empty. Not because I had nothing left to say, but because she no longer had the right to hear it. When I returned to the city, I didn't go home. I went to a friend's place who was out of town. Slept on his couch, made coffee without thinking, sat in the same hoodie for 36 hours. And on the third morning, I checked my phone. She'd sent 7 messages. The first was simple. Where are you? The rest slowly unraveled, from confusion to panic to apology, each one shorter than the last. As if the gravity of silence pulled her closer to truth. I read none of them in full. I deleted them without responding. Then I sent one message. My only response. My final act of clarity. Don't message me again. I've found somewhere that deserves me. I didn't wait to see if she replied. I turned off the phone. Went outside. And breathed in the cold morning air like it was mine again. No one was watching. No one needed to. Freedom doesn't come with an audience. It comes with a door that closes softly and a future you walk into alone. Not because you're broken, but because you're finally whole. For a long time, I believed marriage was the foundation for everything else. That if I could just hold my relationship steady, everything above it would balance. Career, ambition, purpose, like a pyramid built on something sacred and solid. I thought that if I gave everything, time, effort, loyalty, then life would reward me with stability. That love and sacrifice were investments. And surely, the return would be proportional. Surely, if I just kept showing up, kept being the man she needed, the rest would hold. It didn't, because I was building on the illusion of mutual effort. I carried the weight, but she wasn't even holding the rope. What cracked wasn't just our marriage. It was the story I'd written in my head, that loyalty protects you. That love automatically comes with integrity. That success, if shared, is always safe. I learned otherwise. I learned that not everyone sees sacrifice the same way. To some, your sacrifice is just convenience. To some, your long hours are windows. To some, your trust is a tool. And the people closest to you, they can become the ones who hurt you best. Because they know where it'll break. I didn't lose a wife. I lost the illusion that love is a shield. I lost the fantasy that if I performed well enough, in my job, in my home, in my heart, then the world would reward me with loyalty. The truth is, no achievement is worth your dignity. You can climb the ladder, earn the title, get the corner office, but if you have to trade your self-respect to keep your personal life intact, it's not growth, it's erosion. You start to disappear inside your own performance. I almost did. until a file opened by accident showed me the full script of a play I didn't know I'd been cast in. And suddenly, everything made sense. The long hours, the strange questions, the curated concern. It wasn't love, it was strategy, not intimacy, just access. What my company taught me, more than any performance review or quarterly assessment, was this: you're only as secure as the people you trust. And that trust, once broken, doesn't get filed away. It reshapes you. It sharpens your boundaries, clarifies your vision, redefines your expectations. And eventually, it sets you free, not in anger, but in stillness. I don't hate her, but I no longer shape my life around her voice. I don't blame my company, but I know now how easily ambition can be weaponized against the unaware. I'm not bitter, just awake. And that's enough. Some lessons don't come through lectures. They come through silence, through detachment, through one wrong click and a page you were never meant to see. And yet, it was exactly what I needed. So here's what I know now. No title, no paycheck, no position is worth the quiet erosion of your own worth. And sometimes, the most valuable thing a company or a partner can give you isn't a promotion or a promise. It's the moment they show you who they really are. Because that's when you finally learn who you are, too. And that's the only lesson that matters. Thank you for the valuable lessons I will never forget.